Today my main project is to build a snow shelter called a Quinzee. Normally, if snow is packed or crusted, I will use either a igloo or A-frame snow trench or even a snow cave. But if the snow is powdery, none of those really will work. So in that situation, a Quinzee is a good option. A Quinzee is made by piling loose snow and then letting it sit for at least a couple of hours, and something takes place called sintering that causes the snow particles to adhere to one another and forms a pretty good crust. Doesn't have to be warm to do that. It can be, below zero, and the snow will still sinter and form a crust. So what I'm going to do is go out and pile up some snow, some powdery snow, let it sit for 2 or 3 hours, maybe more, and then come back and build a Quinzee. Quinzee is just done by hollowing out that pile of snow, much like a snow cave, and then we'll see how it goes from there. One of the things I do not like about making Quinzees is you never know until you dig it out what's in there. I have a suspicion now that there's a dead log running right through the middle of the floor of my Quinzee. That's not good. But you don't know that until you start digging out and piling, so you're usually about an hour into things before, or more, before you realize that you've got trouble. Of course, a log in the bottom of my Quinzee is not as bad as what one of my Boy Scouts had happen to him. We had a big Quinzee like this, piled it up, let it sit for several hours, dug it out, and at the very end of the Quinzee, after we'd put a couple of hours of work into it, on the floor of the Quinzee was a dead, rotten sheep, frozen into the ground. So we had the choice: start all over again, and it was starting to get towards dark now. Start all over again, pile another pile of snow, let it settle and sinter, and then dig it out again, probably 3 or 4 hours total time. Or the alternative would be just to sleep in the Quinzee with a rotten sheep that stunk badly. So he chose to sleep in the Quinzee. He said after an hour or so he didn't even notice the smell, and he slept fine, he said. So the hazards of building a Quinzee, or a snow cave, I guess, for that matter too. Alright, so there you have it. Took me, maybe 45 minutes to make that. Not bad. I make it about 8 feet long or so I got plenty of room to lay down inside with maybe 12-inch walls, and that's all there is to it. Well, it's time to start digging out the Quinzee. I put it off as long as I can. This is one of my least favorite shelters to build, and especially this part. To dig it out, essentially you end up just laying in the snow and rolling in the snow, and you're covered from head to foot. Snow's coming from the roofs, from the sides. It's just, you get snow in every possible part of your clothing, so it's a mess. And there's just no way I found to stay dry making a Quinzee. But we'll get her done, and still enough light to dry out clothing and be okay. But anyway, so first step is to insert a whole bunch of sticks into the wall of the Quinzee. They are your depth gauges, or your thickness gauges. What you do is you decide about how thick you want your roof to be, and in this case I'm going to go maybe 8 to 10 inches thick, and then you stick these in at different places on the roof, so that when you're on the inside digging,
you can't tell how close you are to the outside surface of the Quinzee. So these sticks are your way of knowing that. You can just dig until you see the end of a stick, and then you know that the wall right there is about 8 to 10 inches thick. You stop digging. So that's what I'm going to do first, is put in my wall thickness indicators and then start digging it out. When it comes to digging out the Quinzee, there's a couple of options I've used. Most people would think just intuitively that you would start digging at the end and work your way in. I actually prefer to start in the middle and dig into both ends that way. The reason, you just don't have quite as much distance to drag your snow out when you start from the middle as compared to when you start on the end. Also, in terms of tools, my favorite shovel for this purpose anyway is actually an old military folding shovel, because you can both dig with it and then convert it into a hoe shape so you can drag out snow. Anyway, I'll just let you watch. It's easier to watch than it is to explain, so here we go. Alright, I've got it cleared enough now that I can sit up inside there to work. So I'll take you in and let you see what it looks like. It's probably about, maybe a fourth done, a fifth done, if that. So it's a slow process. Alright, so there's the entrance. Here's my shovel. You see, there's one of the sticks poking through. There's not much to see in here, just a hole. Alright, so like I said, it's probably a fourth or a fifth done. Got a lot. The hardest part now is ahead, because I have to get the snow out in 2 or 3 stages. I have to cut it off the roof, and then I have to pile it and then drag it out to the door, then crawl out, and then use another scoop shovel to get the rest of it out. I'm going to try and show you why I like this military shovel. It can pull in and pull out hunks like that, which is nice, or you can cut with it, and you can cut with the sides. It's not showing up very well with this, but anyway. I like it. Don't know if you remember me saying there was probably a log through the middle of this thing. Well, it's not through the middle, luckily. It just cut the edge. So we're good that way.
Alright, here it is, finished. It's about, oh, I don't know, almost 7.5, maybe 8 feet long. You can see my depth gauge sticks poking through the roof. Here's the doorway. Alright, now I'll try to set it up so that you can see how long it is. I've got headroom of at least almost a foot, and on the bottom end I got about almost 2 feet on the bottom end. But boy, am I wet. I don't know how you do this without getting wet. You have to almost bring 2 pair of clothes with you when you do Quinzees. One for working and one to change into after you're done. Time-wise, a little over an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minutes to dig it out. You'll see I've got headroom. I can sit up. So I've got that much room over the top of my head. And you could make these bigger or smaller. This is certainly bigger than one person would need. You could sleep 2 people in here comfortably. Well, you could fit 2 people in here. I don't know how comfortable it would be. Alright, so that's a Quinzee. I've had a number of viewers ask about them. Say, why don't I just build one of these instead of building an igloo or a A-frame snow trench? The reason is I'm just soaking wet, and this is harder work. This is more back-breaking work than igloo or the A-frame snow shelter, especially for somebody who's approaching 70. This is probably the last Quinzee I'm going to build. They're a lot of work. Alright, there's the finished product. Quinzee. I'll give you a walk around. You've already seen the inside. Probably took me just under an hour, 45 minutes to pile the snow, and then an hour and 45 minutes to dig out the inside. So we're talking 2.5 hours at least to make one of those. I have slept in Quinzees a number of times, and they're okay if you don't have anything better. But what I've got to sleep in tonight is so much better. That's where I'm going to stay.